Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Gold just hit over $3,000 today, and I would just like to say that is crazy. Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the history of gold, the pricing of it, why it's considered valuable, and what it means for the markets right now in America. My name is Roman, aka Young Bizwiz, and let me dive into a little bit of the history of gold and something that you were not told.
Will gold hit 3,000 an ounce? Let's find out.
So gold is something that's gone back to thousands of years ago. You can talk about the Chinese, the Romans, the Egyptians. All these ancient civilizations have been using gold as a medium of trade for hundreds and thousands of years. And we can see that it's been very precious, it's shiny, there's a lot of reasons why people consider it a precious metal. And since it has its history of being used to exchange with other things, people have continued it since. And so around in the 1800s, America, put their dollar to the gold standard. That's what I call it, the gold standard. And until 1934, $20 was worth 1 ounce of gold. During World War I, they decided to change this, and they switched from 20 ounces equaling $1 to 35. And so this kind of debased the currency by literally 40%. And by making a dollar worth 40% less during World War I, your dollar was backed by less gold. And so in 1971, I believe Richard Nixon decided to debase the gold one more time, once and for all. Back then it was about 20 to 1 for a dollar. Then it became 35 to 1. And then he decided to say, you know what? The US dollar will not be held by the gold standard, and he cut that off in 1971. And ever since then, gold has been printed and backed by nothing besides the trust in the US government. And so now we're here today in 2025. Gold hit over $3,000 today. There's been some ups and downs. Okay, I remember back in 2019, 2020, my parents sold their ounce of gold for about $1,800 or $1,900. And we were surprised that gold did not hit over 2K. That was the big plan at the time. People wanted to see the gold hit over $2,000, but never did. And so my parents got out at a good time. I'd say that, $1,850, $1,900, something around that range. And so because of that, they got out when the market was high, and they got the profit off the buying gold. For, I believe they bought it when it was around $1,100. And so with gold almost hitting $2,000 in 2020 and then eventually hitting the 2K mark in 2023, people speculated that gold wouldn't be going up that much. And the reason why people invest in gold is to battle against inflation. The point of, putting your money and attaching it to gold is that, so that it doesn't get inflated when people can just start printing money and then your money is actually worthless. Well, now the money is technically worthless except by the people that use it. And with the dollar ever so getting printed more and more every year by the millions and billions, your dollar is worth less and less every single day. And it just seems that with all the tariffs going on and all the crazy things going on in the world, with Trump battling, Canada, Russia, China, Mexico, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of stability in the world right now.
You put a note out a couple of weeks ago that grabbed some headlines that actually called into question the long-term status as the dollar's reserve, long-term status as the dollar as reserve currency for the world. How realistic is that as a question in your mind?
Well, we were more pointing out the way the market was pricing at that point in time, in the sense that in fact, we use the title "Searching for a New Reserve Currency," and I think what it is more of a ding in the confidence of the long-term value in the dollar, in the sense that real interest rates have collapsed. Right now, they're trading minus 125 basis points. In that piece, we raised our forecast of gold to $2,300 an ounce to reflect a real interest rate of minus 200 basis points. I think the key point there is that we're in a debt accumulation phase right now through lots of stimulus to deal with the COVID crisis. That's putting downward pressure on real rates, which you can think of as a devaluation of the dollar, which is putting upward pressure on gold and other precious metals.
And so what happens is people don't really look at gold as an investment, but more as an asset to protect themselves against, hyperinflation. And, for example, if Zimbabwe dollars go up to $1 trillion to being worth $1, well, if you bought gold with your Zimbabwe money before the inflation went cray-cray, well, you would still be able to convert your gold into USD. And so what gold really is, it's not really an investment or an asset. It's more like it's a protection. It's a protective asset. You don't really expect gold to go up that much, but you expect gold to stay at a stable relative price. And so that's what usually people use gold for. I personally don't have enough money, so I use silver, but everyone's different because, you can use platinum, silver, gold, and there's just a lot of options you can use when it comes to precious metals. But in general, gold is well known in this area. And hitting $3,000 is a very surprising mark for me, because even though I haven't been keeping up with gold from time to time, I remember, I wanted to buy gold years ago. I was looking at gold being around like $1,600, and I was saying, I don't think gold's gonna go up to 2K anytime soon. But that was years ago. Now we're in 2025 and gold has just... And do I think it's gonna go up any higher? Honestly, if I wanted to make a prediction right now, I'd say gold the highest it'll go is $3,500. $3,500 is the highest I'll see it go per ounce. And the only reason for that is, eventually the things are gonna die down. And, tariff wars and everything is going to have to, only so much fighting can happen before people start losing money by the billions of dollars. And, governments aren't out here trying to fight stuff to lose billions of dollars. They're here to make money off of the taxes of us. If everyone's afraid, then they can't really make any money. Therefore, they have to come up with a solution of figuring something out. And so because of that, I think gold will only hit 35. But let me know what you guys think about gold's prices. Do you think it's way too high right now? Do you think you should sell your gold? What do you think about why the price of gold has gone up so high recently? Well, personally for me, once again, I just think it's interesting that gold went up to $3,000 today. It was just barely hit 2,000 about 2 years ago. And I think it just shows it's a part of the times where governments are just printing money, there's just a lot of fighting going on, or a lot of tariff wars. And so because of that, gold is something that's considered safe. You buy gold to protect yourself. And hopefully, I think the worst thing that could probably happen is, the government taking all your gold, which I still don't understand that, by the way. I think about it, America took people's gold back then. So all the gold that's out now, it's all been mined recently. How could they do that now I think about it? America was just like, oh yeah, we're having a war, so we're just gonna take all your gold? I'll drop a clip below to explain that, but I just realized that is so crazy that they were able just to take everyone's gold.
Many folks today scoff at citizens following this dumb law, but you have to understand people saw it as their patriotic duty to help this country, and people believe the government actually had their best interest at heart. Hey everyone, welcome to Campbell's Coins. In 1933, President Roosevelt banned private gold ownership with Executive Order 6102. 6102 required all persons to deliver on or before May 1st, 1933, all but a small amount of gold coins. During his presidential campaign, FDR promised to lower government spending and taxes, and like every subsequent president, balance the budget. And just like every president, once in office, he did the exact opposite. We were in the midst of the Great Depression, and Roosevelt wanted to stimulate growth by injecting cash into the country. Does this sound familiar? FDR wanted to spend more in an effort to create jobs and increase consumer demand. He raised taxes to fund this jump in spending, but quickly realized that he could not print enough money to pay for all these spending programs. He couldn't print money like they do today because of a pesky little thing called the Federal Reserve Act of 1914. The gold standard limited how much fiat currency our government could print by having it set against our gold reserves. All paper money had to be backed by 40% gold owned by the federal government. In other words, for every dollar printed, the government needed 40 cents of gold in the bank. Having lost all confidence in our economy, people ran to the banks to withdraw their money as fast as possible. FDR put a stop to that by creating a national banking holiday from March 6th through March 9th, 1933. Fearing further bank runs, on April 5th, 1933, just 1 month after taking office, Roosevelt used the powers granted to the president by the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917 to make gold ownership illegal, both coins and bar. Folks were allowed to keep $100 worth of gold, which was around 5 ounces at the time, and there were some other exemptions for collectible coins, jewelry, and certain businesses. Most people had to turn in their gold or face $10,000 fine and 10 years in prison. That $10,000 in 1933 is roughly equivalent to $225,000 today, adjusted for inflation. It's fairly steep penalties. Many folks today scoff at citizens following this dumb law, but you have to understand people saw it as their patriotic duty to help this country, and people believe the government actually had their best interest at heart. I've often heard people try to make the argument that this wasn't really a gold confiscation. If the government has a policy of turn in this or else, that's a confiscation in my eyes. But I digress.
Except like, if it was like an earring or something, or like a ring. Like, that's crazy to me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Is this a time to be happy and celebrate, or a time to be afraid and worried? And check out my next video, which will be coming out tomorrow, which will be about my first ever job and my experience with having it. If you guys want to take a guess what that job was, I'll give you a hint. It involves seafood. Take care. Peace.